John stepped through the towering gates of the Intergalactic Academy on Zira 5, a bundle of nerves hidden under a brave facade. As the only human in a campus that teemed with beings from across the universe, he felt starkly out of place. His fellow students, adorned in the vibrant scales, feathers, and luminescent skins of their species, cast curious glances his way, their eyes flickering with a blend of intrigue and disdain. The first days were the hardest. John's classmates were quick to notice his softer, less imposing human form. Compared to the robust frames of the Galdrians or the swift, agile bodies of the winged Seraphites, John seemed underwhelming, almost fragile. In the cafeteria, whispers followed him like shadows as he sat alone, his meals untouched while he lost himself in observing the interactions around him. His academic prowess went largely unnoticed, overshadowed by his physical inferiority. The sciences and cosmic theories, which John grasped with an almost intuitive ease, were his only solace. Yet even as he excelled in the classroom, the social isolation gnawed at him, a constant reminder of his otherness. Grothar, a Torvian who towered over most of his peers with his 4 muscular arms and imposing stature, soon became the ringleader of those who tormented John. It began with small jibes thrown across the room, snickers when John answered questions in class, and escalated quickly into more confrontational challenges. "Hey, Earth boy," Grothar would call out as he blocked John's path in the hallway, his voice a deep rumble. "Let's see what you can do, huh? Bet you can't even lift one of the training spheres." John tried to deflect these challenges with humor, or by ignoring them, but each avoidance only fueled his classmates' perception of his weakness. One afternoon, as he made his way through the training yard, a training sphere, one Grothar had thrown in jest, hit John squarely in the back. The impact sent him sprawling in the dirt, his books flying. Laughter erupted around him, the sound piercing his dignity. That night, in the quiet of his small, stark room, John lay awake, staring at the metallic ceiling. The laughter echoed in his ears, a cruel soundtrack to his loneliness. But amid the turmoil of his emotions, a resolve began to stir within him. He would no longer be just the frail Earth boy, an easy target for bullies like Grothar. John decided then that he would delve deeper into his studies, not just to escape his reality, but to possibly uncover something about his human heritage that could help him stand his ground. The ancient texts in the Academy's library provided a glimmer of hope. There, John discovered mentions of Earth's long-forgotten advancements in technology and whispers of psychic warriors whose powers stemmed from their minds. If such powers had once existed, perhaps, just perhaps, he could find a way to awaken them within himself. As the twin moons of Zira 5 cast their pale light through his window, John felt a quiet determination settle over him. Tomorrow, he would begin his search in earnest. He would explore every text, every artifact, every piece of knowledge about his ancestors until he found something, anything that could change his fate at the Academy. This journey, he knew, was about more than proving himself. It was about discovering the true extent of what it meant to be human. Each day at the Academy introduced John to new challenges and further cemented his resolve to unearth his hidden potential. He was the focus of unrelenting jeers that echoed through the halls and classrooms. As he walked the corridors, his classmates would mimic his gait, exaggerating their movements to mimic what they saw as his weakness. In the laboratory, his apparatus would mysteriously malfunction, often leaving him to start over while others snickered. The most testing moments came during physical education, where Grothar's taunts were sharpest. Today was no exception. As John entered the training yard, a hush fell over the crowd. His classmates' eyes gleamed with anticipation of the sport they were about to witness at his expense. "Today, let's see if the Earthling can handle a simple Torvian strength test," Grothar boomed, his voice carrying across the yard. A circle formed with John unwillingly at its center. The Torvian brought out 2 large combat staves, tossing one carelessly at John's feet. "Let's make it interesting. If you can land even one hit on me, I'll leave you alone for a week." John hesitated, knowing full well the disparity in their physical capabilities. Grothar's species was known for their strength and warrior skills, attributes that John could not match. But backing down would only lead to more ridicule. Steeling himself, he picked up the staff, weighing it in his hands, trying to appear confident. The duel was brief. Grothar maneuvered with a speed and finesse that his bulky frame belied, easily dodging John's tentative jabs. Within moments, John found himself disarmed, the staff spinning away from his outstretched hand, landing with a clatter. Grothar laughed, a deep, rolling sound that filled the yard as he gave John a light shove that sent him tumbling to the ground. The laughter that followed burned hotter than any physical pain. John picked himself up, his face flushed, not just with exertion, but with humiliation. Yet as he walked away, his mind was not on the defeat, but on the need to find his niche, his strength. He knew he couldn't match Grothar in brawn, but perhaps he could surpass him in brains, or unearth abilities Grothar could not fathom. Later that day, John retreated to the library, a vast room lined with shelves that touched the high ceilings and filled with scrolls and books from countless worlds and eras. Here, in the dim light and musty air, he felt a semblance of peace. The library was his refuge, a place where he was just another seeker of knowledge, not the frail earth boy pitied and scorned by his peers. He spent hours poring over ancient manuscripts, absorbing tales of psychic warriors and strategists who changed the tides of battles with their minds. These stories from old Earth spoke of mental fortitude overcoming physical limitations, of warriors who wielded their intellect as a weapon. John felt a flicker of hope. If such powers were real, if he could somehow tap into these ancient human capabilities, perhaps he could turn the tables. With each page turned, each story absorbed, John's determination solidified. He would no longer look outward for acceptance, but would delve inward, seeking the power he needed to carve out his place in this alien world. This journey was no longer just about surviving the academy. It was about rediscovering and reclaiming the lost glory of his home planet. As the weeks progressed, John's daily routine began to extend beyond the confines of his regular studies. Each night, after the last light of Zero 5's twin moons waned, John would sneak into the Academy's secluded sectors where ancient training modules still lay active, remnants of a time when mental prowess was as revered as physical strength. His discovery of these forgotten areas came by chance, a wrong turn on a restless evening, but it proved fortuitous. The modules were designed to train and test psychic abilities, skills thought to be obsolete or mythic by many modern intergalactic standards. John began to train in secret, driven by the tales of Earth's psychic warriors. The training was grueling. The modules were not tailored for human physiology or psychic patterns, often leading to intense migraines and bouts of disorientation. However, John persevered, his sessions marked by a series of trials and errors as he attempted to harness what he believed was his latent psychic potential. One evening, amidst a particularly challenging exercise designed to enhance telekinetic abilities, John felt a subtle shift within him. The module required the user to move a series of increasingly heavier objects using only their mind. The first few attempts had been frustratingly futile, but this time, as John focused, he felt a strange, tingling sensation at the base of his skull. His concentration deepened, his eyes fixed on the smallest object, a simple metallic sphere. Inch by inch it began to quiver, finally hovering a few centimeters above the platform. A surge of excitement rushed through him, his heart pounding in his chest. Empowered by this breakthrough, John dedicated himself with renewed vigor to mastering these skills. Night after night he returned to the training modules, gradually increasing his control and range. He learned to manipulate not just inanimate objects, but also to subtly influence his immediate environment, altering temperatures and bending light to make himself nearly invisible. These newfound abilities did not come without their costs. John found it increasingly difficult to focus during regular class hours, his mind fatigued by the nocturnal exertions. Dark circles under his eyes hinted at sleepless nights spent in hidden corners of the academy. However, the potential of wielding such power, of not just matching but exceeding his peers in ways they couldn't imagine, kept him going. Amidst his secret training, John stumbled upon an old text detailing a technique called mind shielding. This practice was intended to protect the practitioner from psychic intrusions, a common hazard in psychic warfare. Recognizing its potential utility, John began to experiment with this technique, hoping it would serve as a defense against any future psychic threats, or even physical ones, given its ability to deflect energy. One night, as John practiced this shielding, a stray thought led him to a daring experiment. Could he extend this shield beyond himself? Focusing intensely, he visualized projecting this barrier outward. To his astonishment, the air around him shimmered momentarily as if reacting to his will. The implications of this ability were profound, offering not only protection, but also a means to stand on equal footing with any who dared challenge him. As John's control over his powers grew, so did his confidence. He was no longer the timid, bullied human. With each successful session, He felt his old, cautious self give way to someone stronger, more assertive. He was becoming a force to be reckoned with, and soon, he knew, it would be time to reveal his capabilities. But first, he needed to master them fully, to ensure that when the moment came, he could not only surprise his peers, but also command their respect. During one of his late-night training sessions, John felt his mental endurance reaching its peak. He had been practicing the mind-shielding technique for weeks, and he was finally ready to test it under more extreme conditions. He chose a night when the Academy's asteroid impact drills were scheduled, using the chaos as cover for his experiment. As sirens wailed and students scrambled to designated safe zones, John slipped away to the training ground. His goal was to create a psychic barrier strong enough to withstand the simulated asteroid fragments that would be hurled towards various shields around the campus. Hidden in the shadows, John focused his energy, visualizing a dome of psychic energy enveloping him. The first test fragment, a small, jagged piece of rock, was catapulted across the sky towards his location. John concentrated, his forehead beaded with sweat as he channeled all his mental strength into the shield. Just as the rock seemed destined to strike him, it veered off course, skimming past the barrier he projected and crashing harmlessly to the side. Elated by his success, John pushed further, strengthening his shield. As he adjusted his focus, John felt an unexpected surge of energy. It was as though the very fabric of his being was resonating with the latent psychic forces he had been tapping into. In that moment, his awareness expanded, and he sensed the presence of others around him, not just their physical forms, but their intentions, their emotions. It was overwhelming, but enlightening, offering John a new depth of perception he had never known. Buoyed by this revelation, John experimented with redirecting not just physical objects, but energy flows. As another test fragment was launched, this time larger and faster, he not only deflected it, but also attempted to redirect its kinetic energy back into the environment. The fragment's trajectory shifted, turning away and then spinning back, propelling itself away from the Academy grounds entirely. This manipulation of energy was a breakthrough. John realized that his powers could be used not only defensively, but also offensively if necessary. However, the exertion left him drained, more so than ever before. He staggered back to his room, collapsing onto his bed, where he slept deeply, haunted by dreams of cosmic battles and ancient human warriors wielding similar powers. Upon waking, John felt different, as if his body had finally adapted to the psychic strains he had been placing on it. His mind was clearer, sharper, and his senses were heightened. He could feel the residual energy paths he had manipulated the night before, and he knew instinctively how to tap into them again. This newfound mastery gave John a profound sense of empowerment, but also of responsibility. He understood now that his abilities could change the dynamics of his interactions at the Academy. No longer would he be seen as the weak earthling, but how he chose to reveal and use these abilities would determine whether he would be respected or feared. With careful consideration, John decided to keep his powers hidden a while longer. He needed to ensure complete control and perhaps find a way to reveal them under circumstances that would not provoke hostility or envy among his peers. Until then, he continued his training in secret, preparing for the day when his true potential would be unveiled, changing his destiny and perhaps that of others around him. The balance of John's daily life at the Academy was disrupted when news of his secret night activities accidentally leaked out. Rumors spread that he was involved in unauthorized experiments, causing an explosion of curiosity and suspicion among the students and faculty. Though no one knew exactly what he was doing, the mystery surrounding John grew, and with it, a mix of respect and wariness from his peers. Grothar, who had always been quick to assert his dominance, saw this change as a threat to his own standing. His previous tactics to undermine John's confidence no longer worked as well, especially as whispers of John's newfound respect circulated. Determined to reassert his superiority, Grothar approached John with a new challenge, this time public and impossible to ignore. "John, or should I call you the mysterious Earthling now?" Grothar taunted in front of a gathering crowd. "I've heard you've been playing with some powerful forces. How about you show us all what you can really do? Join us in the combat trials this week, or are you too scared to show your face without the shadows to hide in?" The combat trials were a quarterly event at the Academy where students showcased their skills in a series of duels and tests of power. Participation was voluntary, but the social pressure to compete was immense, especially for someone like John, who was trying to shake off a reputation of weakness. John knew this was his moment to reveal his capabilities on his terms. Accepting Grothar's challenge, he replied calmly, "I'll be there, Growther, and I'll be ready." As the day of the trials approached, John intensified his training, focusing not only on strengthening his psychic abilities, but also on how to control them discreetly. He needed to demonstrate his strength without revealing the full extent of his powers, maintaining an element of mystery. On the day of the combat trials, the Academy's arena was filled with an electric anticipation. Students from all species and classes came to witness what they expected to be a spectacle of cosmic abilities. John entered the arena, his presence marked by a newfound confidence. His peers eyed him with a mix of skepticism and curiosity, wondering if the rumors of his secret powers were true. The trials began, and one by one, students displayed their abilities, some manipulating fire, others bending the laws of physics with their minds. When John's turn came, he stepped forward, facing his first opponent. Instead of flashy displays of power, John opted for subtlety. He used his training to dodge attacks with minimal movement, his actions almost a blur to the onlookers. He subtly manipulated the environment to his advantage, shifting light to briefly blind his opponents or altering air currents to slow their advances. With each victory, the crowd's murmurs grew louder, their initial doubt turning into intrigued respect. Even Growthar, watching from the sidelines, began to sense that he might have underestimated John. By the time John faced his final opponent, a large contingent of the crowd was cheering for him, drawn to his mysterious and efficient style. John's final duel was against a student known for her ability to manipulate gravity. Anticipating a direct confrontation, she tried to increase the gravitational pull around John, hoping to immobilize him. To everyone's shock, John countered by creating a localized psychic shield, subtly redirecting the gravitational force away from him and using it to enhance his own movements instead. As the duel ended with John's clear victory, the crowd erupted in cheers. John had not only accepted Growthar's challenge, but had turned it into a declaration of his presence at the Academy. He had shown that he was not just another student to be bullied, but a formidable mind to be respected. As he walked out of the arena, John felt a shift in the air, a sense that he had just changed the trajectory of his life at the Academy. The real challenge now would be how to handle this new respect and what his next steps would be. Following his triumphant display at the combat trials, John's reputation at the Academy underwent a complete transformation. No longer was he the target of constant bullying. Instead, he was approached with a mixture of respect and cautious curiosity by both students and faculty. This newfound status gave John a sense of relief, but also a deeper resolve to master his psychic abilities to their fullest extent. He spent his days refining his techniques, often revisiting the ancient training modules that had first awakened his powers. The modules, once a source of brutal challenge, now served as a tool for perfecting his control over energy and thought manipulation. John experimented with various psychic disciplines, from telekinesis to more complex forms of energy conversion, each session pushing his limits further than before. As he delved deeper into his psychic training, John discovered he could influence not just physical objects, but the perceptions of those around him. This ability to subtly alter what others saw and felt opened a new realm of possibilities for how he could use his powers responsibly. However, the moral implications of such abilities were not lost on him. He knew that with great power came great responsibility, and the temptation to misuse these skills was always a lurking danger. One evening, while practicing in a secluded part of the campus, John inadvertently crossed paths with a group of his peers, led by Growthar, who were engaged in a secretive meeting. They were planning a prank on a new student, a kind of initiation that seemed more cruel than welcoming. John, recalling his own struggles with such hazing, decided to intervene. Using his ability to manipulate perceptions, John made the group believe that the Academy's administrators were approaching, causing them to scatter in panic. Once they had left, he approached the new student, offering friendship and guidance. This act of kindness did not go unnoticed. Rumors of John's intervention spread, solidifying his reputation as someone who used his powers for good. Encouraged by the positive impact he could have, John began to use his abilities more openly, helping where he could while continuing to maintain the secrecy of their full extent. His actions earned him a small circle of friends and allies, diverse beings who appreciated his discretion and the subtle ways he used his powers to assist others. Despite his rising popularity, John remained focused on his ultimate goal, mastering his abilities to the point where he could use them not only to protect himself, but also to contribute to the greater good of the Academy, and perhaps even beyond. He envisioned a future where his skills could bridge differences between species and foster a deeper understanding among the intergalactic community. As the semester progressed, John faced new challenges, including academic competitions and interspecies debates, where he applied his mental acuity and psychic skills to excel. His success in these areas further demonstrated his growth from a once timid Earthling to a respected member of the Academy. But with his increasing prowess came new dangers. Some of his peers, envious of his abilities, began to see him as a threat, plotting to undermine his achievements. Aware of these undercurrents, John had to navigate not only his physical training, but also the intricate politics of the Academy, always careful to protect himself and his friends from those who might wish them harm. As the end of the year approached, John felt a mixture of accomplishment and anticipation. He had proven himself in ways he never imagined possible, but he knew that the true test of his powers and his character was yet to come. How he managed these challenges would define his future at the Academy and perhaps in the broader universe. The annual combat trials were more than just a showcase of physical prowess. They were a rite of passage at the Academy, a chance for students to demonstrate their growth and mastery over their unique abilities. For John, this year's trials were not just another competition, they were a platform to cement his reputation and perhaps silence his doubters once and for all. As the trials approached, the atmosphere at the Academy became charged with anticipation. Banners floated in the air, holographic displays flickered with advertisements, and students from every corner of the galaxy gathered, eager to witness the spectacle. John entered the arena with a quiet confidence, knowing that this was his moment to shine, not just as a competent psychic, but as a leader among his peers. The trials commenced with a series of duels, each designed to test different aspects of a student's abilities: strength, agility, strategy, and control. John's first match was against a Narakian, a species known for their speed and ability to manipulate electrical energy. The arena buzzed with excitement as the duel began. John kept his focus, using his psychic abilities to anticipate his opponent's movements and counteract them with minimal effort. He employed a subtle manipulation of the air currents around him to slow down his opponent, while carefully avoiding any overt display of his psychic powers. His victory was swift and clean, earning applause and murmurs of approval from the audience. With each subsequent match, John adapted his strategies to his opponent's strengths. Against a heavily armored Drolvian, he used his telekinetic abilities to turn the opponent's weight against him, making it difficult for the Drolvian to maintain his balance. Against a cunning Sylphidian known for her illusionary tactics, John employed his newly perfected skill of perception manipulation, effectively turning her illusions back upon her. By the final round, the crowd was on the edge of their seats. John's final opponent was Grothar, who had bulldozed his way through the competition with his brute strength and relentless aggression. The matchup was a clash of opposites: Grothar's raw power against John's refined control. As they faced each other in the center of the arena, John felt a surge of energy from the crowd. The duel began with Grothar charging, his forearms swinging wildly, each blow meant to intimidate. John, however, remained calm, his focus inward as he activated his psychic shield, subtly altering Grothar's perception of his position. Grothar's powerful swings met empty air, as John used minimal movements to dodge, his actions almost a blur. Then, seizing a moment of confusion, John redirected Grothar's momentum, using his own strength against him, causing him to stumble out of the designated combat zone. The arena erupted in cheers as John was declared the winner. His victory was not just a personal triumph, but a demonstration of the potential of human capabilities, of intellect over brute strength. As he stood in the center of the arena, his peers' cheers washing over him, John realized that he had not only proven himself, but had also inspired others at the Academy to think differently about strength and power. With the trials behind him, John's status at the Academy was no longer that of the bullied Earthling, but of a respected and powerful student. His journey had shown that true strength lies not in overpowering others, but in mastering oneself and using one's abilities for the greater good. As he left the arena, John knew that the real challenges were still ahead, but he was now ready to face them with confidence and a sense of purpose. The aftermath of the combat trials marked a turning point for John at the Academy. His victory was not just a personal triumph, it had shifted the entire campus's perception of human potential. He had demonstrated that the true measure of power lay in the mind's ability to adapt, outthink, and overcome. The faculty and students alike were forced to reconsider their previous assumptions about human capabilities. As the new term began, John found himself in a role he had never anticipated. He was now a mentor and a leader among his peers. Students from various species approached him for guidance on psychic training and mental discipline. Even Grothar, once his chief tormentor, sought John's advice on harnessing mental focus to enhance physical strength. John embraced this role with humility and a deep sense of responsibility. He started informal training sessions, sharing not only his psychic techniques, but also advocating for a balanced approach to power, one that combined physical prowess with mental acuity. These sessions quickly became popular, bridging species and fostering a new sense of camaraderie among the students. In these gatherings, John spoke of Earth's history, of its lost civilizations, and the ancient wisdom that had almost been forgotten. He talked about the resilience of humans, their capacity for innovation and survival, which resonated with many at the Academy who had seen their own worlds change and evolve. Meanwhile, the Academy's administration took notice of John's impact. They proposed an expansion of the curriculum to include more studies on psychic abilities and interspecies diplomacy, appointing John as a student liaison. This role not only acknowledged his unique contributions, but also formalized his efforts to integrate these teachings into the Academy's educational framework. One day, as John was organizing a session on psychic defensive techniques, the headmaster of the Academy approached him. The headmaster, a wise old being from a race known for their neutrality, expressed his admiration for John's journey. He revealed that the Academy had initially been skeptical about admitting a human, given their obscure status in the cosmic community. However, John's achievements had proven that the potential within each species, no matter how seemingly insignificant, could bring invaluable perspectives and strengths to the table. This conversation affirmed for John that his presence at the Academy was no longer that of an outsider, but as a vital contributor to its evolution. The respect he earned was not merely for his psychic abilities, but for his perseverance, his ability to transform adversity into opportunity not only for himself, but for all around him. As the term progressed, John continued to thrive, applying his skills and knowledge to various intergalactic projects and collaborations. He became a symbol of what could be achieved when one looked beyond superficial differences and focused on inherent potential. His story, once a tale of struggle and isolation, had become one of unity and inspiration. By the end of the academic year, John's role had expanded beyond the confines of the Academy. He was invited to conferences and symposiums to speak about human potential and psychic disciplines, spreading his message of hope and resilience across star systems. As he stood before a council of intergalactic leaders, sharing his vision for a future where all beings could learn from each other and build a more inclusive universe, John realized how far he had come. From a bullied outsider to a respected leader, his journey was a testament to the power of courage, learning, and the unyielding human spirit. His story was no longer just about survival, but about thriving in a galaxy of limitless possibilities.